The New York Mets made the two only signings on Thursday, December 8th, yesterday, as of the day this will be uploaded, because they not only signed David Robertson to a 1-year deal worth $10 million, they are bringing back center fielder Brandon Nimmo on an 8-year deal worth $162 million. It is a big deal for the Mets. Both these deals are big for them, and it'll help them keep pace in a very competitive NL East. So let's get straight into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. You're watching Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek. And let's get straight into it. First things first, with this deal, with these two deals, I want to start with David Robertson because he's the guy who it's not the bigger signing, so I don't want to spend too much time on him. So I want to kind of get him out of the way first. But David Robertson, a very, very solid reliever. Don't get that wrong at all. Very solid reliever. 1 year, $10 million is a good deal for a guy like David Robertson. Good deal for the Mets, I think. He'll slide into that bullpen. They are losing some pieces. Obviously, Adam Ottavino is a free agent, among others. So to bring in a guy like Robertson, help out that bullpen, definitely, especially near the back end, definitely will help. And you're also taking him from the Phillies, so you're also in. The idea is kind of, I guess, you're hurting a divisional rival, but you're also helping yourself as well with it. So I think that's very big for the Mets to do that. And at $10 million, you cannot complain about that deal at all. I think it's a solid 1-year deal for Robertson, and I think he'll have a good year in New York, and just be a solid presence out of that bullpen. But now moving on to the big important signing, and the reason why I'm doing this video is Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo last year had a 5.1 B WAR. He hit 274 with a 367 on base, 433 slugging, a 130 OPS plus, which is what his career average is at. Solid year. It was 30 doubles, 7 triples, which led the National League in 16 homers, drew 71 walks, 116 strikeouts. So not less strikeouts than walks, but it's pretty close. And he played 151 games, which is only the second time in his career he played over 100 games. The other time being when he played 140 games in 2018. It was a big year for Brandon Nimmo coming into his free agent year, and he had a big year himself, and was a key piece for this Mets team, hitting at the top of the order. Is hitting at the top of the order for a Mets team that I'm not gonna say needed him there, but it definitely would have been a lot worse off if he hadn't been there. That's how I see it. Personally, I think you start looking at this Mets team. There's only so many options for that leadoff spot, and Brandon Nimmo fits it perfectly. And he also brings good defense in center field. There's also that too. Don't forget about that one. Brings solid defense in center. Good leadoff bat. Can get on base, an on-base machine. I feel like all around fits for the Mets. An 8-year deal. Do I feel it's a little bit long, especially for a guy with his injury history? Yeah, maybe it's a little long, but you can't fault Steve Cohen for signing his guys and going out and trying to win and continue to win after the stellar year they had last year, that Mets team. So it's a very good deal for them. And overall, I mean, if you're just looking at this deal as a whole, could it hurt you a little bit on the back end of the deal? Yeah, maybe. But you're not paying for the back end of the deal. You're paying for the front end of that deal. And I think the Phillies could get solid value from that deal for Brandon. I think the Phillies get solid. Not Phillies. The thing about David Robertson still. I think the Mets could get solid value for Brandon Nimmo on the front end of that contract. Got my teams a little mixed up. Still thinking about the David Robertson signing. We're past that. But Brandon Nimmo is a very good signing. An AAV of $20.25 million a year. It's definitely not expensive. For comparison, the Yoshida deal for the Red Sox is like 17 or 18 per year or something like that. The Mitch Haniger deals was just under shy of $15 million a year. So it's definitely, compared to the outfield market, maybe a little cheap for Nimmo in terms of AAV, but I don't think anyone expected him to get 8 years. I think people were more expecting kind of the 5 or 6 year deal, or around maybe around the 22, 23 million range, but he gets only 20 million a year or just above, but he gets 8 years, so it pays off does end up paying off. Looking at this deal for the Mets, I like it for the Mets. He's a key piece. They don't have to worry about that spot anymore. They don't have to worry about trying to replace Nimmo because they're keeping him, obviously. It's big for them. And the Phillies are making a lot of moves. They brought in Trey Turner. They brought in oh crap, I'm already forgetting. Taijuan Walker, guess who they took him from? The Mets. And they brought in Matt Strahm for the bullpen. There's probably the Phillies and Mets connection. These two teams have just kind of, or was it Robertson from Phillies to the Mets, Walker from Mets to Phillies. A little bit of a mess. I'm not gonna lie, and then you also have the Atlanta Braves still though in that division. It's a very top-heavy division. Don't get me wrong. It's not as deep as a division like the AL East, where the AL East could potentially go 5 deep. It almost went 5 deep last year. Could maybe go 5 deep if everyone's on their A game. And maybe that's me being a Red Sox fan being optimistic, but I'm going to be optimistic. AL East could go 5 deep. This NL East isn't going to go 5 deep, but in return to talking the top end of a division, that top 3 in the NL East is probably the best top 3 in any division in baseball. The only division that would have been able to give them a run for the money is if the Giants would have gotten Aaron Judge, but that still only feels like 2 teams, and the Giants would be still third. Whereas this division feels like 3 Giants, literally. I mean, you got the Phillies who just went to the World Series, the Braves who just won the division, and the Mets who lost the division on a tiebreaker. Both the both the Mets and Braves won over 100 games, and the Phillies made it to the World Series. That's a very, very good top 3 of the division. Obviously, the AL East is probably the closest to that. Maybe the AL West if the Angels can ever get their crap together, or the Rangers pull something out of the bag for 2023. Because you obviously have the Astros and Mariners, but I still think it would be short of this NL East. Yes, main goal, get into the playoffs. I've said this before, is winning division's great and all, but I'd rather just get into the playoffs as a wild card than miss the playoffs. Priority number 1 is get into the playoffs. Can't win a World Series if you don't make the playoffs. So you got to get into the playoffs. I think the Mets are putting themselves in a good position to do it again. Now they just have to deliver when the time comes in the postseason, whether they get a buy into the divisional round, whether they have to play in the wild card round again, whatever they have to do. They have to go out and make sure that their team's in place. They brought in Justin Verlander to replace DeGrom. They still have a couple spots. You still have the Chris Bassett. I know they're talking to Kodai Senga. Could Bassett come back? There's interesting things going on there. Taijuan Walker's gone, although they brought in Jose Quintana yesterday or 2 days ago now, actually, as you're seeing this. So they're starting to piece together, but they still have that one big rotation piece to me. They still have a couple bullpen guys that they need in spots that they need to fill. And then they just kind of, roster depth, right? You can never have enough depth, regardless of what position that depth, you can never have enough. And especially with arms, especially considering Scherzer started slowing down a little bit last year. Verlander, I know we pitched 175 innings last year, unanimous Cy Young. He's 40. Like, Scherzer and Verlander aren't getting any younger. How much are you going to have to pace them throughout the season? Verlander pitched in a 6-man rotation last year, not a 5-man rotation, because the Astros have so much depth pitching. So there are questions. Quintana and whoever else is in this rotation, McGill, whoever else figures into the picture, can they also stay healthy? The Mets still need, and obviously they have the number 3 starter spot. They still got to figure out. They are interested in Kodai Senga. I would guess they're probably still interested in bringing Bassett back if they could. It'll be interesting. Also, bullpens, just bullpen. I would think that they have interest in bringing Adam Ottavino back. Maybe a couple other pieces they can bring in if Ottavino leaves. But they still have a couple holes to fill out. And this is going to be a very, very tough division to win. You got the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies. It's a 3-headed monster in that NL East, and whoever wins that division it's going to be a dogfight to win that division. Very, very interesting. My final thoughts, though, on these signings for Robertson, solid signing just for both sides, and it's a fit. Mets need bullpen help. And the Brandon Nimmo signing, the Mets had to keep him, right? The Mets had to keep him. They couldn't really afford to lose him. You're not just going to find another Brandon Nimmo out on the market. Could you maybe replace him? Like, yeah, but it's not going to be the same, right? It wouldn't have been the same as keeping Brandon Nimmo. So being able to keep him helps tremendously towards the Mets trying to run it back and maybe change a couple pieces, maybe add a couple pieces, and try and get deeper into the postseason and the wild card in 2023. It'll be very interesting to see. The NL East will be the division to watch. And it should be fun. But if you have any thoughts on these signings, let us know in the comments. We'll try and respond to all of them or as many as possible. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified when we post. Check out all the links in the description, Bleacher Brawls website, podcast, Instagram, and Twitter, plus all the crew's Twitters. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek, and I'll see you next time.